Hello, good morning, and welcome back to Reaper Pro Tips with me, your host, Anne, and Disembodied Hands, Quindy, John, and Justin. How are you all today? No, you haven't missed anything yet. I'm just being an Anne this morning. Yeah, the thing is, you can stop, guys, I'm the one to campaign for the Poke Tool because I'm the one who needs to, get it made, and I'm the one who needs to, get Ed on board to make it. So, bothering Ed doesn't do it any good. He doesn't have a copy of my logo, I don't think. So, it needs to be an effort by me, and I've just been too darn busy to pursue it. But yes, I appreciate the love and I appreciate that you want one, and it would be cool to have one, but it takes energy to do that, and I'm so busy. So yes, I love you all for wanting one. Don't get me wrong, but unless Ed rips my logo or gets somebody to grab my logo. Oh, I don't think anybody really misses a pun. It's more like tactical evasion. Yes, and Bone 6 is coming. And guess what? I get fancy little preview minis to paint for Bone 6 for you guys. So, when the end of the month comes, well, actually, I'm off, actually, at the launch of the Kickstarter. I'm actually going to Canada. But when I return, we will be putting our current projects on hiatus, and I will be painting stuff from the Kickstarter to promote it for 1 month. Just to let you all know. I talked to Ron yesterday, so. Let's see here. What do I want to do today? I didn't want to touch up that shirt, get the hairband on. I need my violet red, which is right there. Yes, so we will get some special minis. It'll be cool. I have no idea what Ron's sending. There could be a dragon involved. Could be. We'll see. And these aren't necessarily models that we need to finish. Ron just wants me to work on them during the Kickstarter, and if I don't like them, or if I'm like, meh, maybe I won't finish them. And if there's a dragon, I certainly won't finish it. I will just say that. There's no way. It'd take an entire year on this show to finish it. But I may use it, instead of using a Maldrakar head, I may use it to do the dragon head that we talked about thing. And it depends on the dragon. It depends on what it looks like. It depends on what it is. And if he even sends me a dragon. It was a question mark. So. It would have to be a very, very small dragon, Amadzik. And I doubt that Ron would send me a small dragon. Because this is to drum up excitement. And if it's to drum up excitement, you don't want to show people a tiny dragon. So usually when the Bones Kickstarter starts, we have 3D renders of a lot of stuff, but we don't necessarily have hard copies of a lot of stuff. So we'll see. Just because me and the others, assuming that the other painters on Reaper's Network will also get some of this stuff, just because you don't see a given item on it doesn't mean that it's not out there ready to be launched in the Kickstarter. So that's what I want, Nomadzik. I've been asking for that forever. Okay, not forever, but for many years. About 5 years, I think, I've been asking for the life-size fairy dragon. But it's not really, it's not up Reaper's alley, because it's not like a gaming figure at that point. It's definitely a display figure. So I don't know if Reaper will do it ever. Kreniko, I typically don't ask for sending models to me. That sort of thing is something that probably would be handed off to somebody local or somebody Ron communicated with more. If anybody was going to get the Ukrainian Relief Mini, I suspect that it would be Rhonda. As I straighten up my thingy here. Just because he's communicating with her more, I think, and she does a lot more promo stuff, relatively active, interactive promo stuff for Reaper. I am not like sideline, but I'm far away and we don't talk very much, so I'm less likely to, I think, to get that sort of thing. But I have no idea. I always leave it, I left it a question mark because I want to be excited too, because I mentioned the other day on the show, I don't have any idea of what's coming up in Bone 6 because I'm not on the ground at Reaper HQ anymore. So this will be as exciting for me as it will be for the rest of you, which I love because the first Kickstarter was super exciting. And like, you know, now I'm jaded and have seen many Reaper Kickstarters, but not knowing at all what's coming or the theme of the whole thing is really, it's cool. It gets me all excited about it again. And I enjoy watching the whole thing go, so. Yeah, right, exactly. Since Weeby's the one who always does the relief minis, it makes sense that Michael might be the one if anybody's going to paint it. But if it's not already like in progress, if people aren't working on that relief mini on a stream already, I would expect that to all be sidelined by the time the Kickstarter launches, because then the Reaper's got to focus on the Kickstarter. Realistic wood. It depends, Thorn, because, I mean, probably my go-to is always actually Reaper has a wood triad. The midtone is shield brown. The shadow is woodstain brown, which is really meant to be put in a wash. It's not woodstain's not real high coverage, but it does make a really nice wash. And then actually the highlight to this is one of my favorite colors of all time, which is driftwood. So they make a lovely aged wood kind of color. So I would say, and then from here, I typically will mix in something like creamy ivory to put an additional highlight on these guys. You could also, though, go with a gray wood, which is really bleached out, and then I would maybe use the stone triad, or I would mix the stone triad half and half with this wood triad. So the stone triad is 90, 85, 86, and 87. 90, 86 is stone gray. And you could mix that half and half with shield brown, and you get a much more grayed out brown, since wood that's not painted or stained tends to go gray with time. So that's up to you what you want to do, but any of those options I think work fine for the pirate ship. I wouldn't go with anything more rich than that because it's you know, kind of a ghost ship. So that's kind of me, but yeah, shield brown I created specifically to be part of a wood triad, and I'm very happy with those colors in general. Yeah, you should tell him he can't order any dragons from his Kickstarter unless he gets off his butt and paints one of the ones he has. Twisted Oma. Totally. I'm in favor of enabling mini painters everywhere to stop building up crap so they can buy new crap. Since I have successfully told myself that I can't buy anything new until I paint my existing models. At least two. It has to be a 2-for-1. I have to paint 2 models, finish 2 models before I can buy 1 new model. So, sure. Sure, Thorn. Yeah, just think about what you like to do if you want to go more gray or if you don't. You could also, if you've got a normal, like, just kind of a medium gray, you could try mixing that into the shield brown and the driftwood and the, I wouldn't probably into the wood stain, but maybe. Depends. Yeah, you could just go for the accumulation there, Shadow Raven, if you want to. I tend to feel suffocated when I get too much stuff. I've learned that about myself over the years, so I'm very much happy with my new plan to paint 2 to buy 1. Plus, I have so many pretty minis. I can't decide if my next one's going to be a samurai girl bust that I have, or if I'm going to do one of the busts that David got me from Chimera. Haven't decided. So we've got these 2 colors. I'm going to mix another one. This is just violet, red, and white. I've decided to go a little brighter on the highlights to make it pop and see what I can do. If I go over, since I've got a little bit of a muted pink to start with, I think I went darker with burgundy wine or some such, or purple. But I want to bring a little bit more brightness into the shirt because it doesn't take up very much room. And so if I make it a little more saturated, I should still be able to carry it off against that muted fur. There we go. It's a nice highlight. Now, this can get hard to get highlights without brush strokes because the violet red has no white in it. So it is a difficult color. It's difficult to highlight such colors up from their original without seeing brush strokes, because the minute you add white, everything goes opaque. So one thing you can do is just add a tiny bit of white to your original color. This will increase its opacity and also make it play better with its highlights. I didn't do very much. I just used whatever paint was on my brush from this light pink. But still, that does change the quality of the color. Honestly, go with a smaller one, Agent Marvel, because you will find that you will get very bored with all the scales. It will feel like it takes you forever to paint the dragon. So if you go with a smaller one, you'll kind of break yourself in a little bit more. And you won't get as frustrated or as, oh my god, this is taking forever. Or you can paint the dragon bust, which was out with Bones 4? Bones 4 or 5. And that's a nice intro to painting a bigger dragon, but it gives you an idea how much painting an entire dragon will do. Nice. Purple, like an amethyst dragon. That's pretty cool, Thorn. Yeah, that works fine. Heartwood Brown from the Kickstarter, Quantum, is also a good start on that. Buckskin Pale being very pale indeed. That's a very warm, very new wood look for sure, yeah. All depends on if you're looking for Ghost Ship or you're looking for something else. I am going to grab a bit of purple here or something darker. I think I'm going to use Orchid. I'm going to grab my Orchid Purple. This is a Kickstarter color. I'm working on the purple PDF now, by the way, for the Patreon. So you guys, we're waiting for purple pentads. It's coming. And my Patreon. This is a good time to push it. Is patreon.com/paintingbig. I do all sorts of stuff with Reaper Master Series paint on there. There's paint techniques, and then there's little color workshops and stuff that we do just to talk about the colors and how to use them. So if you are in the mood to check out a new painting Patreon, check me out. Alrighty. And I may have to use some of the new Kickstarter preview models in tutorials, just because why not? I'm going to thin this orchid down quite a bit. I actually do have an orchid right now that is this color plus white. There. I see. Yeah, well, I'm not sure how they treated wood ships in the old days, and Pendrake is not here to give us more information than we need on it. He's our boat guy. But unless you're here, are you here, Pendrake? But I think if Pendrake was here, he would have spoken up by now. He is a boat. He loves boat and maritime stuff. But, I mean, you could look up pictures and see, or look up how wood was treated back in the old days. I don't even know what would be a natural wood color for a ship. I mean, although they did tend to use them until they sank. So, a boat could be quite old and still be in service. And I'm just going to touch up my pinks here and use my Orchid Purple to enhance my shadows like you see there on the sleeve. But that depends on how realistic you like your stuff to be, as opposed to, just painting it to paint it. Of course, you can use anything you'd like, really. Nobody can really tell you that you're painting it wrong when it's a fantasy ship, so... There we go. So I want a shadow under the elbow here. And I've just decided to go a little brighter with my colors. And I'm trusting that this will work, even though my fur is very muted, because the fur is also really brown. Brown's still a neutral. We went rather yellow with it, but I have to not go super bright with this cloth, but I figured I could go just a little bit brighter and still have things work. You guys are hardcore. I can't do that. I just can't, build up stuff like that anymore. It kills my creativity instantly. when there's no way I would buy 2 of something anymore. I ended up with 2 Maldricars, one in bones and one in resin. Quite accidentally. Or not really accidentally, but I got the opportunity to pick up one of the resins after I had already ordered the regular bones one. So now I need to find a home for the bones one, because I'm never going to paint 2. And they're really just taking up space. I always say maybe I'll do it as a giveaway on my stream. So we're just highlighting this up. Get that light onto the sleeve. And when I'm doing this, I switch back and forth between midtone highlight and shadow a lot to try to blend things in. Remember that wherever the light is falling more, like the top of the sleeve, your shadows are also going to be lighter. Couldn't you do add-ons with that at the end, Nomad Zeke? Usually they'll break up some of the groups later, although given not all of them, because that would just be a lot of work. Reaper already, like, so much work because we give you guys so many options to order. Reaper makes a lot of work for itself. Creativity is undead. My focus has just shifted a lot. I'm not doing a lot of painting right now because I'm more focused on my writing, but I have to at least sit down and finish my competition model for Adepticon. The sharper highlights you put on cloth, the more it's going to look shiny. See, I added that sharper highlight, and now this sleeve is looking more shiny. So if I don't want that, I need to dull down that highlight. You do not always have to take things up to white, and you shouldn't if they are not a shiny cloth or surface. So if I dull that back down, it still looks like it has a sheen because I have highlighted it up a fair bit, but it's not super shiny. And it's showing up a little bit brighter on camera than it really is. I do want to get a little bit of highlight down here on the bottom though, even though it shouldn't be too highlighted. Yeah, sometimes they break those up for add-ons at the end, Zeke, but I don't remember. Like I said, we can't break everything up because we already have, like, I don't even want to guess. Anybody who's good at math want to figure out exactly how many different combinations you could order things in the Reaper Kickstarter, because it's like, it's got to be 1 million easily. I guess the best they can do is just to say, yeah, well, when it eventually is released, then you can buy as many as you like. Just going to grab some of this orchid purple, mix it with my violet red, and try to do some transitions here. And I want this bend here to be more... I don't want to lose my folds. I lost my folds a little bit. Now I'm bringing them back in a bit. I'm going to use pure orchid purple for this like crease where her elbow bends. One thing I could do if I wanted a more naturalistic shadow here as well, and not such a vibrant shadow, is I could take something like Rogue Shadow or Brown Liner and drop a drop of it into here. It would take it much more muted. Rogue Shadow is probably a really good option for that because it has red in it. So if I want a darker shadow, I can do that. Yeah, we'll never please everybody. This is the thing you learn with a Kickstarter. You will never please all the people. The best you can do is to try to make most people happy when end all and be all is done. And there's no way Reaper can predict, like, you know, what'll be popular ahead of time. They can have a decent idea, but nobody really knows, other than that dragons are always a good seller. So now that I've added in that rogue shadow, it's going to act more like a liner mixed with the orchid purple. I've essentially created an orchidy purpley liner that's not quite as, that doesn't have a lot of coverage. There, that brings those shadows in, which brings that sleeve out a little bit more, which makes things more interesting. And now I'm going to get a little bit of detailing on her bodice here, just above her bodice on the shirt. I was trying to bring out these details more before, but I think I wasn't using as a darker shadow I needed, and so the rogue shadow's kind of my call for that. And then I also need to grab this violet red and put it up on her hairband. Violet red makes a beautiful raspberry color. This beautiful raspberry color when you thin it with white, or when you add white to it. So if you're ever looking for a beautiful raspberry red pink, this is how you get it. Alrighty, looking pretty good here. This sleeve's looking okay. I did a little bit of a glaze there with that violet red, plus a tiny bit of white. And that intensifies the color. Now I need to bring my highlights up a little bit more. And I need to highlight her hairband. Yeah. Well, you get that disconnect, right? With people who just want a cool mini and people who want to paint it for a game. And the gamers don't want what we, tend to enjoy. Like, they want just something pretty simple that they can put a paint job on and that it'll look good. And the more details they are, the harder it is to paint. It's very much different audiences. Just going over these details one more time to bring them out a little bit better. That's better. There, that's looking pretty good here. There. Now, the more highlight you put on, the more this sleeve will look pink instead of more of a darker raspberry color. So it's okay to have it where the light is really going to be shining on it. But then, when you look at the figure all around, you want to make sure that it looks like the color you want it to look like. And if it has gone too pink, then you will want to glaze with your violet red. Alrighty, let's get a little bit of highlight up here. A little bit of highlight on the other side. Yeah, that's a little better. I like the bodice a little better there. All right. I'm going to go up and kind of shade the headband. Just by lining. I don't want to put a wash on it because I don't want to darken it down. I want it, because it's so thin, I still want the color to be pretty bright. And so if I put a wash over it, the whole thing will dull down and I will have to labor very much or use a lot of underpainting to bring this color back up the way it is right now. So instead, I'm going to just line between those little braid things. Not all cats attack minis, but a fair enough number of them do. One of my cats was a miniatures attacker and one was not. All right, so a little bit, just a little bit of shadow to pick out those little bits. And then tiny little highlights, and we will be done with the pink and we can go on. I did think about making the braids or the fasteners on the front here also pink, but I want to do the pants a bit and decide if maybe I want to bring up the blue to here. Since I have like two brighter colors on the miniature, I can swap between them. Now on the braids, I'm going to try to just keep the highlight on the top of each of these little nubbins because I still want the darker raspberry color to be primary. So I'll have to keep an eye on it. My lining got a little out of control down there. 31st. Sometime on the 31st Thorn. I think we typically launch it like right after lunch. Correct me if I'm wrong there, guys. But as I recall, it tends to go live around like 1 p.m. Central. But it's on the last of this month. And here on the stream, I will be getting a bunch of preview minis to paint on during that month. There we go. Had to bring that pink back in. Yep. No idea. I have no idea what's in the Kickstarter. It's going to be very much a surprise to me this time since I don't work in Texas anymore. So my first look at anything will be when Ron's box arrives. I'm hoping it'll arrive by Friday. He mailed it yesterday, and it's 2-day. So we'll hope it arrives on Thursday afternoon or evening. So that I can show you guys stuff on Friday. Otherwise, it'll have to be Monday when I show you guys cool stuff. So I'm over highlighting. I'm using my really, really bright pink to highlight the headband because it's easier to do that and see where I'm hitting each little braid. And then to just glaze with my midtone to take these highlights down a bit over the whole headband. But that brings out our little details. Hi, Daffodil. Ah, yes. Sign up to get an email reminder for the Bones Kicks 6 Kickstarter launch. There you go. Quindy just put the link in the chat for you, Thorn. Yes, I'm excited to see what Reaper will come up with this time. And I'm hoping there's a lot of Bones USA. But I have no idea. Going around the edge, same thing, using my very brightest highlight, and then I will glaze with my mid to knock that down. It's easier than trying to highlight up with your mid-tone and then your highlight. I think that after the Brandon Sanderson Kickstarter, I think that Kickstarter is has probably girded their loins, and nothing we can do, Nomad Zeke, will make them faint. The days of that are long gone, I think. It was awesome when we completely broke them with the first Bones Kickstarter, though. But I think Brandon Sanderson hit like 16 million in his first day. I don't think we're going to do that. So if anybody made Kickstarter update their servers, it would be Brandon's Kickstarter. All right, so we've got those nice little spot highlights up there. So now I want to knock those down. I'm going to build a glaze. You can use either your original violet red or the violet red plus white, but violet red's probably going to work a little better. So I'm going to put a little bit of that up into one of these wells and drop a water into it. Yep. But the more nerdiness takes over the world, the harder it is to make things buckle because they're ready for us. That's the problem. Whether it be nerdy fantasy novels and science fiction novels or nerdy con attendants, we continually show them that they've underestimated us. So it's hard to make things. Even with Brandon Sanderson's Kickstarter, I don't think there were issues with launch, even though it went so fast, so high, so fast. So I feel like the world understands that the nerds are here and we are mighty, and nerds and geeks and all the rest of us, we are powerful. We vote with our wallets. There we go. So I glazed that color over and see how it takes it down and makes it look more like the raspberry color I want everything to look like. There. And that's a pretty, I think I like that pink. It's that raspberry color is looking pretty good. So now I want to deal with my blue. I have kind of an idea. I think there's enough tight detail in the top part for me to do a very subtle freehand on the pants. So I'm going to experiment with it and see if I can. First, I need my Storm Chaser blue. There it is. I've been using Storm Chaser blue a lot lately. I think it's, what was this? This was the other, I can never remember the fast palette it's in. So let's get our blues laid out. I want this color, and then I want to make a slightly lighter version of it, but I'm thinking about, I think I want to take it, because I took my pink pretty bright, I think I want to go up with tropical blue. which is a brighter color, but it works well. It's in the same like brightness range as these guys, the reds and pinks. One of the high C's. I just ignore all that, Korniko. I have this this great habit that I've developed of just like ordering from a like looking at the Kickstarter, being excited about the Kickstarter, ordering from the Kickstarter, and then immediately putting it out of my mind, so that I don't get too sad that I don't have the things yet. Especially with how long some of them take to fulfill. So the interesting thing when you're doing freehand and you're trying to do a more subtle freehand is to keep in mind that you need to do it, like you need to figure out if you're going lighter or darker, and you need to figure out how that's going to work with your regular pants or cloth highlights and shadows. So I'm mixing up kind of a triad here for the pants. And then I need to decide which way I'm going. I'll probably go lighter with the freehand, but we shall see. Now, none of these are pure tropical blue. I've mixed Storm Chaser into each of them, including the highlight here. I don't want the pants to go up super high. I'm looking more for kind of a, not quite denim, but you know, I'm looking more for a muted blue range of colors for her pants. This one I feel needs a little bit of white or off-white to it. I don't want it to be very bright, so I think I'm going to grab like a neutral. I happen to have, of all weird things, I have like Undead Flesh here. I'm going to actually use a little bit of that. It's a greenish gray off-white. I feel like this blue is a little too bright for what I want, so I'm going to use just a tiny bit of it. You see how much I squeezed? Probably about half a drop. Just to kind of lighten this up a little bit and mute it a little bit, because I feel like it was getting a little bit too bright. I didn't want to highlight it with just white, even though I wanted to switch it lighter, but I didn't want to take it brighter. There's two different things there. So, and then I'm probably going to go back and mix in this. Then I'm going to go back and mix in that. And I do this regularly when I'm constructing triads, kind of just making my own triads, as I'll mix the shadow into everything and the highlight into everything, back and forth. You still want to have transitions, but you want them to all work together, and if a little bit of everything is in everything else, then it will. Yeah, I purposefully put them out of mind. Yes, exactly, Quantum. You've got it. And that's what I want. Like, I'm still waiting for Dracoth's Children to ship. That was a set of minis and busts, and I ordered one of them, I think. I don't remember. And when it comes, it'll be a surprise. If I ordered more, then I get a surprise. I think I might have ordered the mermaid. I don't remember. It was a cool Kickstarter. There were some models I really liked, so that's what I got, and we'll see what I actually got when it gets here. But I think that's my only pending Kickstarter. I did a lot of Kickstarters in 2020 because, well, I was stressed out along with everybody else. But then I scaled back greatly last year. So I think that's the last one. And then I can just concentrate on painting what I have and getting enticed by new things that come out. So I'm going to do another quick base coat over the top of the pants, since I probably used pure Storm Chaser on the pants the first time, and I want to make sure that my slightly changed up Storm Chaser is my base for the second time. And this is Storm Chaser just with a little bit of that highlight mixed into it. It won't really make a difference visually on the model, but there's also some patches of this blue that didn't quite cover the first time around, so this is just my second coat at that point. I much prefer 2 smooth coats on the base coat. I've done that for a very long time. I used to thin my base coats even more than this and end up putting 3 smooth coats on, but over time I've become more comfortable with just using slightly thicker paint as long as it self-levels. All right, I'm gonna pop this back. Let's get closer. Let's get in focus. There. I've been pretty happy with most of my Kickstarters. Oh, we're also waiting for Bard Song. That's right. That's the other Kickstarter. But that's a David and a Kickstarter, so it wasn't just me. And I think he was technically the one that bought that one. I just remind him every once in a while that we should expect to get that eventually. I need to decide what color that belt's going to be eventually also. Now I could go and make that belt pink or blue. It would be different, but I could do it if I wanted to. I don't have to go leather with it. So we'll see. We'll see how I feel about that. I am strongly veering toward doing blue on these laces though, so I think I'm going to go for it. And I'm not going to use the Storm Chaser blue. I'm actually going to start one up. Use the mid-tone that I mixed, this color, instead of Storm Chaser. The reason I would not start with Storm Chaser on the laces of the bodice is that the bodice is already black. And if I start with a very dark blue, the color isn't going to show up very well. But if I start with the mid-tone, it will. I can still use Storm Chaser to shade if I have enough room. But if I want the blue to carry and for it to like be obviously the same blue across the model, starting with the mid-tone is a better tack with a very small area. There isn't much lacing here to paint, and they are very small. So I'm going to start just kind of dabbing in some color there, and I'm going to let that go while I work on the pants. Yeah, hopefully they got out, Kerniko. So we've got some folds here in these pants. These are very, appear to be very soft pants, very drapey because of the folds. We do want a highlight going down the middle of the thigh and a highlight on the top of the knee. You can see those highlights right there. You can see that my mid-tone isn't that different from my shadow. And that's on purpose because with blue, it can be very difficult to layer up smoothly. So I already did one trick, which was to mix a color that has a bit of white in it into my base for this blue. And then the other trick is to use a color that's very close to your initial color when you start highlighting. So I can still see my highlights and shadows here, but they're not super different from each other. They're just different enough. Yeah, that's cool. Well, it's an exciting ride to like hang out on the Kickstarter, even if you hold off to put in your pledge, Turgeon. I tend to hold off to put in my pledge these days because everybody's pledging on the first day, but I want to see more of what's out there before I decide what I want to get, because I'm usually limiting my spending on it. But it's always fun to watch the stretch goals come out and see new stuff that's revealed. And it'll be Reaper's first Kickstarter for a very long time. So yeah, looking forward to it. It'll be fun. So we've got stitching up the side of the pants. So we can't see it on the other side really, but we can see it on this side. What I probably should do is take a shadow and kind of define that seam down the outer edge. So I think I'm going to grab my dark purple shadow that I used on the shirt and see if it's dark enough to define these little stitches on the side of her pants. Or if I need to add a little bit more rogue shadow to make that work. Kind of have to have rogue shadow, I think. Yeah, we're using the Orchid Purple today. They are awesome paints. So this will be the first Kickstarter also that I didn't design the new release paints for. Probably they'll be Ron designed. I'm going to grab my Rogue Shadow and make these stitches a little bit darker. I'm going to drop just a little bit of water into the Rogue Shadow because I want it to stay really dark. Since I'm working against a dark blue here, if I don't make it stay really dark, it's not going to do what I need it to do here. Yes, correct, Quantum. We haven't done a Bones Kickstarter for a while. I don't really pay attention to the Base Boss ones. It's not really my cup of tea, but yes, I'm in a big one. Like, Base Boss in general does not require shutting down the whole company to fulfill. Bones does. They probably won't be able to because they haven't asked me for favorites, so I haven't been able to give that to them. In order to have an Anne's favorites, you really need to, like, you know, ask the Anne in advance. And they have not done so I doubt. I would have a different set of favorites on this one because I've been using a lot of the fast palette colors. I would totally do a fast palette favorites if that was like a thing that Reaper wanted to do. But if I wanted to do that, I should have been with Ron. Gotten with Ron a long time ago. Because they've probably been planning this for well over a year. So just using my Rogue Shadow to bring out some of these details here. Since I haven't, it's dark enough. Cursed, yeah. Any old Anne will do. Just putting in some shading, again, around the bits that need it. Bringing out these little scallops at the bottom of the pants. Little shapes and frills. And you can use any liner for this, really. All liners are so dark that you really don't read the color very much. So just because you're painting blue doesn't mean, for example, that you have to use blue liner. Rogue Shadow is more of a red liner, but I'm using it just fine on these. I'm going to mix my blue together with that Rogue Shadow, in fact, to create kind of a just neutral shadow. I'm going to throw some water into it, just for the underside of the pants here, where they are in shadow. So that color I will show you in a second here. So that's this. So one brush full of Storm Chaser Blue and one brush full of Rogue Shadow, and you see that's a nice muted out blue. So you want your shadows generally to be muted. They're seldom really saturated unless you've got a lot of really strong bounce light like I did with the Ogre. And I'm just going to paint this on the underside of the legs. Just because I know there's shadow there. Could also add a little bit on the inside of the legs. This is quite thin. It's pretty much a wash, except I didn't use sealer with it, so it's wash consistency, but it wouldn't make a great wash. Just because pure water doesn't make the best medium for washes. Let's get closer. So I've got those shadows painted in on the inside of the legs and on the underneath. It hasn't taken it super dark. You can still see details and highlights. But it's just enough to give us more muted contrast down here. I'll take my highlight and attack the other leg here because we got highlights on here, but we don't have them on here. I'm going to thin it just a little bit more. Little bit of light going all down the front of the leg. And I'm going to get a little bit of the light here. I need to figure out what color I want to bring these stitches up in. I could use the red, though I have to underpaint it with white. These folds are so narrow that you can just like pretty much line them. Normally not something I recommend, but then when the folds are very, very narrow, you really have a hard time coming at them any other way. Trying to get those little details to come up here. And there we go. So you still want those shadows on the underside of the leg, and this is where I'm going to grab my muting shadow one more time and darken it down. So we'll get this muted shadow in here. Just to darken down the areas here. And while it's wet, if you want, you can take some water and just kind of feather it in a little bit. Although once it dries, you'll see it blends in pretty well. Now I've got this final bright blue I need to apply. And I'm going to have to keep it pretty small. I also need a highlight on the side of the leg here. Right up next to these little laces. All right, now this last blue is going to cover really well. You can tell because you can see how this is kind of falling off the palette and being watery, but this is definitely not. This looks like it has really high coverage. So that means we need to thin it down or it's going to leave brush strokes like crazy. It may leave brush strokes like crazy anyway. We'll find out. But I just dropped 3 drops of water into it. So it's probably 1-to-1 at this point. Yes, trouble has arrived. So let's see. This is really thin paint now, so when I load up my brush, I have to spend a lot of time unloading it as well so that I don't leave a lot of big puddles when I try to bring this in. And now I have to take care on my brush stroke and see how that's going to work. Since this one has more white in it than any other previous highlight, this is the hardest one to make blend in. And often you have to use glazes to blend your layering with blues because it's too transparent. Once you add white, you lose that transparency. You see brush strokes all over the place. This isn't bad. I can see brush strokes in person on it, but it's not bad. And then we got to kind of look at our light and see. We probably don't want this light on the inside of the leg. We've got highlights there already. You can see that that's got a hard edge there, so I need to blend that in. This is the trouble with blues because they're so dark and they're so see-through in their pure stages. And then the minute you add white, all those brush strokes pop out. There's not a lot you can do about it except to try to wet blend or glaze or get them to blend in some other way. That's a little better. This is where line highlights for these skinnier folds work for you. You don't need to really worry about blending those in. When you get your paint thinned down to the right level and you have very little on your brush, it gets a little easier, although I did a 50-50 mix on this one between my highest color and my next lowest color. That's helping it to blend in a little bit more. And we mostly want to pick up the line of that thigh muscle underneath the pants. And if this fold kind of blends in here, we want to blend it in. Now I have to ask myself what I want to do back here about these stitches. Usually with stitches, you want to kind of line around them to show that the cloth is stretching. Like, I mean, line with actually a highlight. You want to bring out that edge against the stitches. But on 28mm, that can be a hard call whether you really want to do that. So I'm highlighting it a little bit there. You usually don't want to go all in, and if you're going to do it, you want to keep it a little more subtle. Just to bring them out a little. I think I am going to grab, maybe I'll just use the blue. Maybe I'll use the pink. The pink is higher coverage. I'm going to knock in those stitches with this pink just to see how it looks. I can always glaze over or paint over if I decide I don't like it. But mostly it'll probably read as just a light color. So we've got stitches in there. Nice, Julia. I'm going to bring in this a little stronger now. See how that edge goes in. That lets you make those stitches stand out. In larger models, what you're doing with putting a highlight right around where the stitches pierce the cloth is you're essentially suggesting wear and strain on the cloth because the stitches are pulling at it because it's keeping the cloth together. With little models, it's a lot less evident what you're trying to do, but it does bring out the detailing. As with everything, you can do a very simplistic version of weathering on 28mm, but many more options on larger models, monsters, and busts. Been doing so many red, yellow, blue color schemes, I'm going to have to go and do a green, orange, purple for a whole set. Just to give equal time to the other triad. Highlight the back there. A little bit of light on these just to bring them out. Less when it's in a shadow. Though sometimes you can push that a little bit if you want to. We could have a shadow underneath this bag, but I wanted to bring out those details, so I'm using more detailing than I otherwise might. There is an animal section. Yes, Cute Animals, I believe, is the channel on my Discord that is dedicated to cute animals. And you guys just know it's on when I get my puppy. You will get so sick of puppy pictures. Oh, that's right. I was going to check and see if there was an update with new pictures of the Curie great-grandkids. So I checked yesterday and the new update wasn't up yet. Let's see here. Doop. Oh, it's annoyed at me because I didn't turn my Wi-Fi back on. Yeah. There we go. Is there a new puppy update? Pup date? Nope, no new pup date. No 4 weeks pup date. I'm very sad. Yes, pup date. That's what we call an update about puppies, is a pup date. Didn't you know that, Tornico? I'm very sad because she was doing weekly pup dates and she hasn't gotten the latest pup date up. So I can't see these cuties. All right, so those pants look pretty darn good now. It's reading pretty well. My highlights are looking pretty good. That's doing well. The stitches are mostly covered on this side. I have a hard time seeing them as opposed to the other side where they're very clear. So it's kind of a challenge over here to know what to do. I may have to freehand it because the mold didn't really take. So there's like a little bit of suggestion here that the stitches should be under here and here and here and here. So I'm just going to kind of paint over that like I did the other side there. And then I'll come in and make my little dashes. Cool. Yeah, every once in a while, a service dog organization will be contacting our breeders to work with them. I just didn't have any litters the last time. You know, I didn't have a breeding dog last time they contacted me. I'd love to work with one. Though I don't know. I think that Shilohs aren't really suited for. There's like some service work they're suited for and some they are just not suited for. And it's hard to communicate that to people. People tend to see service dog equals service dog, but in reality, there are so many service roles and they're very different. They require a very different kind of dog depending on what type of role you want. So a lot of our breeders haven't had much luck working with people who need service dogs, which is sad. Guide dog is a whole different type of thing, though. I don't know if a Shiloh could do guide dog stuff. Not sure we're the right breed for it. All right, I'm gonna block in a shadow on the crossbow here just to kind of fill in the shadow right next to her and separate things out a bit. I did it a little bit on the underside of the arm here already, building in this dark shadow. Just want to make sure everything is separated out. I've got our stitches on the other side now. One of my puppies, one of Kiri's daughters, was a successful seizure alert dog. That was the closest we came to placing a service dog, and actually he didn't need the service dog when he got her. It just turned out that then he did, and she adapted. Yeah, see, that's what Shiloh's would not be good for. Yeah, it depends on the temperament. It very much depends on the temperament. But emotional support and like PTSD is the two things I feel, two of the things I feel Shiloh Shepherds should not do. And the reason is that our dogs are really empathic, which means if you're upset, they're upset. Whereas a dog that's a little bit more unflappable and a little bit more independent-minded, like a Labrador or a Rottweiler, those dogs aren't going to be more as in tune with you. Like, they're not going to take all their lead from you, and I feel like that's a better fit. And I feel also like that's sometimes why you may not see a lot of German Shepherds used as guide dogs, not compared to the old days. I feel like some of the more unflappable breeds are probably a little bit better fit. I don't know. I'm no expert on that one. But being a breeder and working with people who have tried to use Shilohs for service work, the things that Shilohs do very, very well are alert, like seizure alert, diabetic alert. Brilliant dogs for that. Because they're so in tune with you, if you are even off just a little, they will catch it. So we had, although she's retiring now, but we had a breeder who specialized in diabetic alert dogs because her husband was a type 1 diabetic. So the puppies got trained in it, no matter, like, you didn't even have to try. They would start alerting just based off what their parents would do. But I feel like, yeah, different breeds, different types of support worker require different temperaments and different personalities. And it's very challenging for a dog. It can be very stressful for a dog, just like for a person, I think. But definitely, if you want an emotional support dog, I would say go for a breed that's not as sensitive. So a sensitive breed will take their cue from you. And if you're upset, then they're not going to be able to help by being a rock for you, I guess, you know? So yeah, be careful what sort of breed or mix, if you go for a mix, you look for, depending on what you need. Trying to bring up those highlights around those stitches just to bring out that texture. Yeah, I can deal. I guess we had very little rain here, so I like rain though. But I guess Scotland, if I lived in Scotland, I wouldn't like rain as much because it would be like a lot of it. Here I can, or any previous climate I lived in, I could like rain because I didn't get totally inundated like you do, Kerniko. Yeah, exactly. That's more of a therapy dog temperament, right? Because emotional support dog has to go out with you into the world and help you to function, right? So it's a different sort of thing. I feel that Shilohs do make good therapy dogs. Leo was a therapy dog. As long as you socialize them to this setting, that you're going to be doing therapy work in. Like if you're going to hospitals and stuff, make sure that you get your dog comfortable with those scenarios. Even nursing homes can be a challenge because there's still people in walkers and with medical equipment being trundled by. Leo had to acclimate, and in retrospect, if I go and join a therapy group with my new puppy, I will definitely be trying to socialize that new puppy in nursing homes and such if we're going to be doing that sort of thing before the puppy was an adult. Leo wasn't as happy or comfortable in those situations because he was such a big softie, and I didn't acclimate him as a puppy. Involving webbed feet, yeah. But yeah, I feel like sensitive dogs like German Shepherds can be, and Shilohs, of course, because a lot of them comes from the German Shepherd, are very good therapy dogs. They have the empathy with people, and they know how to comfort. Or they learn how to. Yeah, cool. Oh, yeah. She should get arrested. These people who mess with service dogs who don't get it, so dumb. Like, just can't even grok it. One, your daughter doesn't need to be playing with a working dog. Period. Done. Just turn the other way. Two, if she loves dogs so much, get her own dog. Don't take somebody else's dog. Sometimes. I lose hope in humanity sometimes hearing these stories. All right, so I figured I needed just a little bit more highlight on the bottom of this corset. I just want to bring this up a little bit. I need to bring it a little bit away from the blue. The black and the blue are very close because they're dark. So highlighting the little underside bits of the corset here will help pull those apart. Ha ha ha. Yeah, okay. There are no dogs that don't need any training. Like, if you want a dog, just be willing to do basic training. It's not like it's that much work. This makes me hurt. It just makes me hurt. Like, our dogs, when I was a kid, were not super stellar, but they knew basic obedience. And it didn't take that much to teach it to them. People who get a dog and just want one that needs no training whatsoever. You don't want a dog, you want a cat. Or maybe you want to rescue an adult dog that has some training already, though those can be hard to find since most adult dogs up for rehome are suffering from a lack thereof. Not all, though. At least in our breed. I speak only from our breed's perspective. It's rare to see a gem of a dog up for rehome. But in general, yeah, I just don't get it. Yeah, if you love big dogs, especially, you need to be careful. If your little Chihuahua like jumps and barks at a child, no one will care generally. But if your big Rottweiler does it, that's like super freak out moment for a lot of people. So I feel like big dog owners do need to be on top of the training a bit more. It's good that you are, just Genoma. Sorry, did I attribute that to the wrong person? Chat is going fast. I can't do it. Oh, Trouble. Trouble's got the big dogs. There we go. Oh my gosh. Lady Nim, that's insane. Yeah, tell him that if you want training, you're going to pay a pretty penny for it. And you still need to be trained. This is the great doom, like, of being a dog person who, like, has bred in the past. Like, I got lucky. All my puppy people all got it. Like, I didn't have any puppy people who expected an out of the box, doesn't exist, by the way, dog. And they all trained. But yeah, people just don't get it. I feel like they think a dog is an accessory or something. You buy it and then it just sits there. Wow. Too much like a kitten. Yeah, people are dumb. Yeah, some people really shouldn't be allowed to own pets. Unfortunately, that's beyond most societies. Oh well. At least there are enough of us who are conscientious and who train our dogs and who like to have, like, I really can't wait to get this puppy because I'm really looking forward to training her. And maybe doing some fun trick training with her or something. I haven't looked up like dog sports groups here in the South Bay, but I'm wondering if there's an agility club or something that we could learn like the starting stuff. Take a starting class. It would be fun to do that stuff. None of my other dogs, maybe Blazy. Blazy would have been like the dog I could have maybe gone to agility with. She had the drive and the energy to do it, and she probably would have had fun. But at that point, I just had too much on my plate. I didn't have the time to do it. Had 4 dogs. There we go. A little bit of highlighting on the corset straps, and that looks nice. Should I make these a little bit less pink and a little more red, I can bring them down a little bit with the glaze. Oh, today's Wednesday, and it's Luca's stream time. Oh, noes! Well, then, I'm going to stop here. Since I just did these wonderful cords, and they are, our bunny's coming up nice. I'm going to have to think about the freehand I was thinking of doing on her pants. I feel like she could benefit from a little bit, but I feel like I need to reassess like how much of it I want to do. Because it could easily kind of take over. So I'm going to think on that for the next time we work on this model. But what we did today is we finished up the raspberry color. We highlighted and shaded with some orchid purple and even some rogue shadow in some areas. We added the detailing around her little braided hair headband. We blocked in our pants and did the highlights. We talked about why blue is so difficult to deal with. We talked about the Bones 6 Kickstarter launching at the end of this month on the 31st. Keep your eyes peeled. You can sign up to be notified when that goes live. Be aware. And yeah, that's all what we did today. It is Luca Day, so I will step back and make way for the Alpaca Nation to have its way with y'all. And I hope tomorrow it is Ogre Day, and I don't know. If I don't have any really good ideas for what to do with his basing, I'm probably going to start with the Catfolk Paladin instead. I haven't been real inspired on Ogre's basing, so we may start with Kitty. Just be aware. So yeah, have fun everybody, and have fun with Luca over on Miniatures Den, and I'll see you all tomorrow. Bye.